All right, folks, here's the final version of the contraption before it goes out into the trailer and waiting for delivery. I'm just going to go over the stuff that you haven't seen before because you have seen the rest of it. Pretty obvious. And I'm not going to run it because you've already heard it run. There have been no changes to that. It's the best I can get it to run in its current configuration. I'll discuss a little bit more on that in a second. Okay, so as far as additions go, starting at the front, these are the two horns that the owner brought over. I actually haven't tested this yet to make sure that the handlebars aren't going to handle, but I don't think they will because I designed those stops. So this thing will only go a little bit one way or another. I'm pretty sure that's going to clear. The relay form is up here in the headlight bucket. It just barely fit. And so I ran it all directly back to the battery. It has its own inline fuse. So that works out really well. And it's as far as power goes, that's hooked up all the time. And the way these old switches worked on these bikes, they switch the ground. Even some newer bikes do it that way. So in other words, that horn will go off even with the key, or not, there ain't no key, but with the ignition in the off position, just the way it is. I wanted to show you how I did the rear brake light switch. Okay, so this is what I ended up doing. I ended up making I had a piece of hex stainless, which was really cool. And I made this on the lathe with a 5mm thread and made it so I could just tighten it with that hex. And then, you can see it's got a little groove for the spring. And then I mounted the switch along the frame, but I didn't want to drill into the frame anymore. I had a piece of this half material that I had cut, looking to do something else with, right diameter. So I put a stud into that and then just tack welded it to the frame. And, bent this bracket and then re-welded that bracket up. This thing works perfect. I'm real proud of this one. I mean, it works fantastic. It's not in the way. I've got everything wire tied up in here, so there's not going to be any fouling with the wiring. I wish the wiring was neater, but as I said in another video, I would like to have had designed and laid out a complete wiring harness for it and routed it differently, but can't do it, So anyway, here's the brake light. You can see it works with minimal movement. So I'm real happy with that. That came out good, and it's not going to get in the way. I was going to put it up here, but the exhaust being right there. I was asked about the exhaust by a viewer. He said, this thing sounds terrible, which I agree, on video in particular. What is he going to do for an exhaust? And I said, nothing. This is the way he's going to keep it, to my knowledge. I don't agree with it, but this is another reason why I can't get it run any better. And like I said, I'll go over that here more in a second. I redid the breathers for the engine. There's two of them, one on the back of the trans and one up here on the top of the head cover. These things were just open to the air. It had little hoses off of them. You're not supposed to do that. So I plumbed this up with some regular hose and some brass elbows down to a little bracket I made. I screwed into the back of the engine, just on that part of the casting where it's thin, where normally an engine bolt would go through there. And then just put one of these guys on it. And so that's a good breather for both sides. I had this other hose down in there from something else and whatever. So now it's kind of sealed off. You want those areas not getting water in them or anything like that. Made a little indentation in the metal cover down in there so you can still get that metal cover on and off. Lights still all work. No problem as far as the lights go. No problem as far as the tail lights go. And the one on the marker as well. So pretty cool stuff. These are the completed handlebars. These are the ones the owner brought over to replace the smaller ones. Smaller. He wanted more leverage because this thing just wants to fall over with the geometry in the front end. I got this thing tightened as tight as I can get it. And you already know I added a throttle push cable. I won't go into that. I got a clutch cable that I made out of some new parts. Well, actually all new parts. And it seems to be holding up because I did something real dumb. The cable I had, I couldn't solder it. And so I ended up ordering some different cable. Then I realized that my flux was contaminated, probably with water or something, moisture. And when I found another container of flux finally, and tried the cable that I had on here that now is too short because I cut it up so much trying to get it to work. and I soldered it perfectly. So I really defeated my brain on that one as far as I'm like, I can't believe I did that. This is the same cable sheath, but with a KZ1000 adjuster for a clutch in the middle of it. And also the spring down here for that, you know, just the way the KZ1000 clutch has as far as helping to shield it. And one of those, I think this is from the Honda, the original Honda cable that was on there. And so we've got adjustability in 3 spots, down here, and up at the handlebar lever itself. This is soldered, it ain't gonna go anywhere. It's only 1.5 mil cable. I could not afford to buy bulk 2.0 cable and bulk 2.0 cable sheathing, and the cable sheathing I had was simply not long enough, and I can't afford to put any more money into this because we're maxed out as far as what owner really can afford to put into this, so I couldn't add any more parts to it. So we're going to use what we can, and this is going to hold up fine. It's not a very strong clutch. It's only a 750 for crying out loud. I think it'll be just fine being it's soldered now. And let me think, what else was there? I added some covers to the, the lugs down here on that solenoid. There was one on the output side to the starter, so I added a red one on the input side just to protect it. And I was going to replace this switch, and the one that I got I didn't like, so we're just leaving it because this one works fine. And being I have a plug up here, if something happened to it, we can change it out in the future pretty easily. So that's about the only other thing I think I can think of that we did that you haven't seen yet already. But I'm not going to run it, like I said, because you've already heard it run. It doesn't run any differently. You just got to let it warm up a while and runs pretty good. I am definitely not riding this thing. There is no way in hell I'm riding this thing with my back the way it is. So as far as trying out the brake, if you watch video 1 and video 2, you know what I'm talking about. Like possibly locking up or something. I don't know, because he's going to have to test it. I'm hoping that, because this is all mismatched crap. I'm hoping that solves it. If it doesn't, he doesn't have a way to trailer this thing, and I'm not going back and forth cross town to get this thing, at least not for free. So if it doesn't, then he's going to have to pull the trigger on a little bit more money, and I'll go get it. And we'll put those narrower CB550 shoes in it and see if that helps. But I'm hoping that this solves it. But other than that, you have seen it already. So we're going to go ahead and end it here, but I just wanted to give you a brief update of what it looked like. All right, folks, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by I can't take this tuning and getting it running any better, if it even needs it. I don't believe it does, but I wanted to explain what I mean by that. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's a couple of facets to this. The first one is how much time do you want to spend and how much money you want to spend on something that really isn't worth it. It goes back to the Christine movie, the early 80s, where that guy, I forgot the character's name, he said to the kid, he goes, "Hey, you can't polish a turd." and this thing is really a turd. It just in parts alone, this owner has got way more than this thing is worth, and plus whatever he paid for. I don't even know what he paid for it. There's no question he got taken, and it happens to everybody, and it's just the way it is. Now I got the thing running as good as I can get it running based on my experience with these, and based on the fact that this thing is so heavily modified with that exhaust and things like that, that it's just, it's kind of counterproductive to even go any further. I have found on modified machines, not this heavily modified with, exhaust about that long, but generally speaking, like something with a header or, Kirker or something and pods, if it's got CV carbs, I have found it easier to tune. The general consensus is that they're harder to tune. I have found it easier. There's more fiddling you can do that's not a permanent change. For example, I can mess with the diaphragm springs. I can mess with the slide needles, things like that. That can all go back to the way they were if necessary. And of course the jetting. Now on an older CB750 carb, if you have transition issues, and I don't even think this one does, because it's got an accelerator pump, so it'll probably transition okay. The way you got to deal with those is you got to machine like between 5, 8, maybe even 10 thousandths off the slide cutaway, and that usually brings that relationship into a better parameter for pods and a performance exhaust or something like that. Now, speaking of exhaust, this is part of the problem on this particular engine. Notwithstanding the fact that this thing has been bodged and who knows what pistons those are, and really who knows? Who knows where those pieces of aluminum from inside the head cover are? I don't know. And the thing is, it's been so bodged that you have to think to yourself, how far can you go to get the thing to run right? Will it ever run, better than it does right now? And that's where I'm at. I don't think it's going to run any better than it does right now. And is it good enough for what the owner wants to do? Just tool around town, that sort of thing, go to a show or something? I think it is. All right. So, but as far as the exhaust goes, remember in the service manual, I mentioned when you go to put the cams in and you do the cam timing, you're on number 4 top dead center. So the base circle is up. That means that you are in, and it also says number 1, being that they're companion cylinders 1 and 4. Number 1 is in overlap, valve overlap. So right there is a key. So if you got a valve overlap motor, the engineers are trying to take care of some exhaust gas scavenging. Now the only way that that's going to happen is if you have an exhaust where they all tie together at some point, because a sequent exhaust impulse is going to help pull fresh air and help be a little bit more efficient on the next intake pulse of whatever's next in the firing order. That's basically the summary. You can go look it up yourself, and read all the different stuff online about that. We have 4 pipes sticking out, nothing's connected, so we don't have any of that going on. It's really hard to tune a motor like that. It really is. It's not a thing about back pressure. I'm not talking about, oh, this motor needs some back pressure. Not at all, no. But it does need an exhaust, a proper exhaust on it at least, to tune it up right. That's really the summary of it. I can't get into any more detail from there because I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll probably be wrong anyway. So it's just super hard to tune. So it's super hard to tune. It's probably as good as it's going to get for his needs, and it's not worth doing any more to. That's the bottom line right there. It's just not worth it. We fixed the major issues as far as the compression goes, and we fixed the other stuff. It's technically street legal now. You don't need blinky signals. You can use hand signals. It's got a brake light. It's got a headlight. It's got horns. Bob's your uncle. We're good to go. I'll try to get some footage of him riding it when I drop it off. I don't think it's going to be in this video. I'll hold this video for a little bit longer, but I want to get it up on the channel and at least put something out there. The reason why there's some delays around here, and I'll go into that here separately in just a second. They're good delays in a way, but some of them aren't. If I can get him to do a little test ride when I drop it off in his neighborhood, then I'll do that. And maybe we'll put it in as a short at a later time. I don't know. But hopefully the rear wheel doesn't lock up again and things like that. As I mentioned before, we can maybe do something with those CB550 brakes. But, like I said, you can't polish a turd. You can only go so far on these things. And then you got to throw the towel in and say, it's as good as it's going to get. So that's really what I mean by that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end this video now. And I wanted to talk to you about some delays that are going on around here as far as infrastructure-wise and me-wise. I'll talk about me-wise first, because the other stuff I want to show you when I have to get up and walk around. I got to go in for a prostate biopsy on the 19th, and we're going to find out once and for all what's going on with my prostate. I can't do MRIs because of a glitch in regards to my pacemaker leads. It's too long of a story to share with you here. But I just can't do an MRI, which would be the gold standard for radiographically, or I should say, radiologically diagnosing any like prostate cancer. My PSA actually dropped a little bit from the last time it was done like 6 months ago. That could be variability between the actual machines that they did the testing on, So we're going to go for a biopsy because I have a new urologist and he's all over that. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we're going to find out for sure what's going on. If that bangs positive on any type of cancer, then that's going to play a role in what goes on around here, is why I'm mentioning it. I don't know if it's going to or not, or what the extent would be, but if it does, then I'll let you know what the situation is at that point, and we'll formulate a plan as far as how videos are going to go and how any work's going to go around here. Right now, we are experiencing a bona fide, like record-breaking just about, heat wave, and have been for a while. I can't hardly do anything out here. It's just so hot. So, because of that, we're going to make some changes. Those changes include Ichabod has volunteered to pay for 100% a mini split system. Yeah, sure he has. He's like, what? A mini split system for this garage workshop. As you can see, I have the lathe, all, I did it again. The lathe all covered up with a tarp. And I got that wall clear because that's where the evaporator is going to end up going. Somewhere in this area. I'll probably have to remove that. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to talk to the installers when they get here. There is actually I forgot all about this when the young man came to talk to me about this. I'm getting it done from a place called Veteran Air here in town. They serve Sarasota, Manatee County, and they're veteran-owned. We get a discount for veteran. My wife's a veteran and first responder, yours truly. So we got a little discount on that. But you know what they do with that? They jack the prices up to start with, and then they give you discounts and make you feel all warm and fuzzy. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They're supposed to come tomorrow. That's why I have all this done today. Today's Sunday. That is a hollow area in here. I forgot all about that. Apparently there was a window at one point in here, kind of like that one, but different. And I did about a 5/16 hole right there. And I stuck my dangly bit in there and looked around. It's just a total hollow area that it's framed out. I don't see any concrete, but they must have framed it out. So naturally they need something to put the wood against, and they just put some wood in there. They didn't put any concrete in it, nor in the insulation. And it's totally open. So I think this is going to be a perfect, because there's another piece on the other side, obviously, and the outside just got probably the wire lath and the stucco over it, which will maybe cause a little bit of a problem, but this is the best place for them to punch through because this is wood. Once they get to the outside, if it breaks a little of that away, I can always use some stucco patch and bring that back in once they put the sleeve through and get everything pushed through. So somewhere in this area, I'm going to ask them to put it as high as possible up within the specs of the unit to the ceiling. We are going to have AC, an 18,000 BTU mini split system. And I've got the electrical done on the outside with the panel. Added a breaker. I do some shenanigans with that, but don't worry about it. It's within code as far as you know. And we'll be fine for the long run. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't got a confirmation on any time tomorrow, but we're going to have some AC out here because I just cannot do more than a couple hours a day. Like right now it's about 10:30 and I've already been down with the heat a few times in the last couple of days, and it's been pretty brutal. So I'm done with it all, because you probably just saw when I swung the camera around. We're going to get started on this very soon. The V65 Sabre out of the trailer and in the shop, and we're going to be getting into it. That'll be obviously a separate video. But I'm waiting until we get some AC going because I just cannot work out here in this weather. It's just too freaking hot. And I used to be able to do it when I was younger. I had really great heat resistance. I could go out and bang all day long as far as outdoors with a heat index of 105 or something, drink a crap ton of water, and then have no problem. But now I just can't do it. So we are going to cool the place down. I got rid of the temporary or the portable AC. It's out in the shed. I'm going to get rid of this here. Actually, I'm going to do that this morning off camera. I'm going to get rid of this. I have the piece of drywall that came out of that. I kept it all these years. And I don't know, it's buried in here somewhere. But I have that piece of drywall. Well, there it is right there. You see that piece of drywall down in there. We're going to get that back up in there and then kind of do a temporary seal off on that. And I'll address that with some knockdown and shit in the future and some paint. And then we'll be able to, just get rid of all that crap and really be civilized about it. So anyway, that's it on this video, unless I get some footage to shove in there delivering it, because I don't think that's going to happen in the next few days. So we'll probably do it, like I said, separately as a short. If you want to stick around for more crap like on that, please feel free to do so. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. You get notified when I put more junk up on like this and other stuff. And I guess that's it. As always, thanks for watching. Don't just repair, restore. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And we'll catch you on the next video.